The sky above the planet was dark purple. Storms of dust rolled over the empty land like angry waves. Nothing grew there. No birds, no trees, not even a sound, except the low hum of something falling fast from space. It was a ship. A small explorer. Vessel, spinning, burning, crashing. Inside, Captain Alara Voss held onto her seat, alarm screaming in her ears. Sparks flew from the broken control panel. She hit the emergency button. The ship was going down fast, too fast. Mayday, mayday. This is Captain Alara Voss, she shouted into the comms. Ship damaged. Crashing coordinates unknown, please respond. But no one answered. Only static. The ship hit the ground with a thunderous crash. Metal broke. Fire burst. And then silence. Alara opened her eyes slowly. Everything hurt. Her head was bleeding. Her suit was torn. But she was alive. She looked around. The ship was in ruins, half of it buried in the sand. Smoke rose into the sky. The air outside was thin, but breathable. She stumbled out of the wreckage, holding her side. Where am I? She whispered. She looked up. A giant moon hovered in the sky, and two suns shone faintly behind dark clouds. The planet was dry like a graveyard. Yellow rocks, red dust. No green anywhere. Her survival training kicked in. First, she checked her supplies. Only one bag survived. 2 water packs, emergency food for 5 days, and a small cum device. She tried the cum again. Base, this is Captain Alara. I've crashed. I need rescue. Please respond. Silence. She climbed a nearby hill to get a better view. All she saw was more desert, endless and empty. I'm alone, she whispered. That night, she lit a small fire using old parts from the ship. She sat close to it, hugging her knees. The heat helped. But the silence was heavy. Too heavy. Then, something moved. She froze. It was a soft sound like sand shifting. She looked into the darkness. Nothing. Just the fire's shadows. Maybe an animal, she thought. But animals don't move that quietly. She stood up, grabbing a metal rod as a weapon. Who's there? She shouted into the dark. I'm armed. Number. Answer. Just wind. After a long, tense hour, she lay down and tried to sleep, but one eye stayed open. The next morning, she searched the crash site again. No signs of life, but something was wrong. Her food pack was opened. Not empty, just touched, moved. Someone or something had been there. Her heart pounded. I'm not alone, she said. That evening, she set traps near her camp. Simple ones tied with wire and loose parts. She also scattered powder on the ground so she could see footprints. Then she waited. Late at night, something triggered one of the traps. Snap. She jumped up and ran with her flashlight. But when she reached the spot, no one was there. The trap was sprung, but empty. She checked the powder. Footprints, but not human. Long toes. 3 claws. Glowing dust around the prints. Her hands shook. This ... isn't human, she whispered. She followed the trail, but it ended near a tall rock wall. No more prints. Like the creature vanished, she returned to camp, heart racing. Day 3. Alara felt tired, both body and mind. The planet was quiet, but not safe. She felt it like eyes watching her. She climbed another hill, hoping to spot a signal, a ship, anything. Still nothing. As she came down, she saw something that made her stop cold. A strange mark on a rock, like writing. Glowing faint blue. She touched it. Warm. Was someone trying to leave her a message? That night, she didn't sleep. She sat by the fire, staring into the dark, and then she saw it, across the fire. Behind a rock, a figure. Tall, thin, pale skin that shimmered like water. Large eyes, not human. It didn't move. Just watched her. She didn't breathe. Her heart felt like thunder in her chest. The fire flickered. And in that flicker, the creature was gone, like it had never been there. Alara sat frozen for hours. She didn't blink. She didn't move. I saw it, she whispered to herself. I know I saw it. She looked around. Still alone, but deep inside she knew she was not alone on this planet. And whatever was out there, it knew she was here. Asterisk. 3 days had passed since the crash, and Captain Alara Voss no longer believed. She was truly alone. At first, it was just a feeling, a strange chill in the air. The quiet moments between the wind. The sense that something was always just behind her, watching but never seen. Now she had proof. The food pack had been moved. The footprints were real. And last night, she had seen a figure. Not human, not part of her imagination. Something else. She hadn't slept since then. Her eyes burned from exhaustion, but her mind stayed sharp, alert. Fear had replaced rest. Survival had become instinct. She spent the early morning walking. The edge of her small camp, scanning the powdery dirt where she had spread fine sand to catch tracks. She crouched low when she saw it, a single footprint, deep, fresh, the same long-clawed shape she had seen before. But now it was closer. Just outside her camp. Something had come during the night. It had been watching her fire. Watching her. She stood slowly, gripping the metal rod she carried as a weapon. She wasn't sure if it could protect her, but it gave her the courage to move forward. Her breath was shallow as she followed the trail. The prince moved toward a narrow canyon between 2 rocky hills. The deeper she went, the colder the air became. The walls of the canyon felt like they were closing in, and the silence was so loud, she could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She reached a dead end. Just stone, no more prints. Nothing to follow. She turned back, frustrated and nervous. When she heard a soft sound behind her, not footsteps. Not breathing, more like humming. A low, strange vibration, as if the rocks themselves were alive. She spun around. There was nothing. Her chest rose and fell quickly. She looked up at the canyon walls. Were those markings? She stepped closer to the stone, brushing off the dust. There were glowing lines, curved and flowing like symbols. Some of them pulsed with a soft blue light. They weren't natural. They weren't made by time or weather. Someone had carved them there. Recently. Her fingers hovered just over the glowing symbols when she heard the sound again. Closer now, louder, still, no one in sight. And then she felt it. A presence. Not touch, not sound, but a sudden awareness. Like someone or something was inside her thoughts, brushing against the edge of her mind. She gasped and stumbled back, nearly dropping her weapon. She shook her head. The sensation stopped immediately. The silence returned, but it felt heavier. Now, almost full, she ran back to camp, her heart racing, her hands shaking. Whatever it was, it could reach her without being seen. It could step close without making a sound. It could leave glowing marks and vanish like smoke. That night, she didn't light a fire. She sat in the dark, holding her weapon tightly. Waiting. The stars above the planet twinkled like cold eyes. The 2 moons cast pale shadows across the sand. Her breath made small clouds in the chill air. Hours passed. Then she saw something move again, just outside her vision. To the left. She turned to nothing. To the right. Nothing. But her heartbeat told her the truth. Something was there. It was real. It was close. She rose slowly and took a few careful steps forward, eyes scanning every shadow, ears listening for even the smallest sound. Then, directly ahead, she saw it, the same figure. Tall, lean, and still. It stood in the moonlight, no longer hiding. Its skin shimmered like liquid metal. Its face was not human, but not monstrous either. Its large, black eyes reflected the stars. It didn't move, didn't attack. It just watched her. Ilara stood frozen, caught between fear and awe. She didn't speak. She couldn't. The creature raised its hand slowly. A peaceful gesture. She didn't raise her weapon. She couldn't. The air between them was full of tension and wonder. And then, in a voice soft and unnatural, but understandable. It spoke, "Don't be afraid." Illyra's mouth parted slightly. Her eyes widened. It knew her language. She took a step forward, but before she could speak, the creature turned, stepping back into the shadows. One blink, and it was gone. She stared at the empty place where it had stood. This was no animal. Number. Mindless threat. It was intelligent, and it had been trying to communicate all along. But what did it want? Why hadn't it hurt her? And most important of all, how did it learn to speak her language? A cold wind swept across the camp, brushing her skin like a warning. She looked up at the stars again, suddenly feeling smaller than she had ever felt before. She whispered into the quiet, "What are you?" The wind carried her voice into the night, where only the shadows answered. And somewhere beyond the hills, the creature waited. Watching. Listening. And perhaps planning. Illyra didn't sleep the night the alien spoke. The words, "Don't be afraid," kept echoing in her head, over and over, like a whisper trapped between thought and memory. It hadn't attacked her. It hadn't made a sound. It had watched. Her ... spoken in her language, then vanished like smoke in the air. How did it know her words? Why did it speak to her? The next morning, she didn't feel fear anymore, only curiosity. There was danger, yes, but now there was something more. A puzzle. A reason to stay alert. A reason to survive. She began moving through the planet slowly, exploring deeper than before. Her legs ached, but she pushed herself. She kept finding strange, soft, glowing marks on stones, small piles of pebbles arranged in neat circles, and always the feeling that she was not walking alone. Once, when she paused to drink water, she noticed something strange in her bag. The water pouch had been refilled. She stared at it, confused. She had emptied it yesterday. She was sure. Her eyes scanned the area. "You were here again," she whispered. The alien wasn't just watching, it was helping. But why? She started, leaving small signs behind. A rock balanced on a stick. A spiral drawn in the dirt. Little messages testing if it would answer. It did. The next morning, the spiral was drawn again, this time next to her tent. Perfectly copied. No footprints around it. No sound during the night. She didn't know if it meant "hello" or "I see you," but it was something. The days passed like this, silent, strange, unreal. Then came the turning point. She was walking near the canyon again when the ground beneath her cracked. Before she could react, she fell into a deep pit. Her body hit the stone floor hard. Her leg twisted badly. She cried out in pain, her voice echoing off the cold walls. She tried climbing out. The walls were too high. Her radio was back in camp. Her leg throbbed with pain every time she moved. Hours passed. The suns began to set. Shadows crawled over the edge of the pit. She began to lose hope. But then, from above, something appeared. A shape tall, glowing faintly in the low light. It was him, the alien. He stood at the edge of the pit, silent. Illyra looked up. "Help me," she whispered. He didn't answer. He just jumped down. He moved like liquid, landing softly beside her. She tried to crawl back, but pain shot through her leg. "Stay away," she said, half scared, half begging. But he didn't attack. He knelt beside her and slowly placed a hand on her ankle. A soft, cool light spread from his fingers. She gasped, not in pain, but in relief. The pain began to fade. She watched as the swelling went down. The bruising disappeared. The bones realigned themselves. It didn't hurt. It felt like warm water flowing through her skin. When he was done, he stood and looked at her. Illyra sat up, amazed. "You healed me," she said. He tilted his head slightly. Then he turned, crouched down, and leapt up, grabbing a root, climbing quickly. She didn't even have time to speak again. He lowered a long, thick vine into the pit. For her, she stared at it. The message was clear. Now he didn't want to hurt her. He wanted her to live. She climbed out, slowly, her hands trembling. When she reached the top, he was gone. But something inside her had changed. No longer was he just a creature in the dark. No longer a shadow. He had saved her. He had touched her. He had chosen not to leave her to die. That night she didn't light a fire. She sat alone, staring at the stars, thinking about everything. The crash, the silence, the footprints, the healing. She finally whispered to herself, "You're not my enemy." The next morning, she made a new plan. No longer survival alone, but communication. She returned to the canyon and used her tablet to draw images on the rocks, a starship, a planet, a stick figure for me. Simple shapes, simple ideas. She sat nearby and waited. Hours passed. Then, at sunset, she saw he came. Slowly, cautiously. He didn't speak this time. He knelt in front of the drawings. Then, he pulled something from his side. A smooth crystal rod that glowed with pale light. He used it to draw next to her shapes. A star, then 2 stars, then many stars. A line connecting them. Then, a circle far away. A symbol for his own world. She watched, amazed. They were speaking without words. Then he paused and looked at her. She smiled. He tilted his head again, almost as if he was learning what the smile meant. Before leaving, he gently placed a small stone in her hand. It pulsed. Softly, warm, alive, somehow. Then he was gone again. But not a stranger now. Something was growing between them. Not friendship, not yet. But the start of understanding. The start of trust. And somewhere in her heart, where fear once lived, something new was beginning to rise. Something dangerous. Something beautiful. The days were quieter now. But not calm, not really. Captain Alara Vos still woke each morning with a strange feeling in her chest. A weight she couldn't explain. It wasn't fear anymore, not like before. But it wasn't peace either. She had begun to accept that she was not alone on this planet. The creature, no, the being, who once moved through shadows was now something else in her life. A presence. Not constant, not close, but always felt. He didn't have a name. Not yet. She called him Echo in her mind, because his actions always came like echoes, silent, distant, but meaningful. They didn't speak much, only short moments. A shared look. A drawing in the sand. A piece of food left on a rock. A glowing stone. Handed to her without a word. Slowly, without realizing it, Ilara had stopped counting the days. Time had changed. The planet felt less like a trap, and more like a secret waiting to be understood. But then, her body began to change. It started with her sleep. Restless, heavy. She woke feeling more tired than before. Her dreams became strange images. Of stars she had never seen, floating lights that sang, voices that didn't use words. Sometimes in the dream, she heard Echo's voice, not the way he had spoken before, but deeper, from inside her. She ignored the dreams at first. Space dreams, stress dreams. That's what she told herself. But soon, her body gave her reasons not to ignore anything. She became dizzy while walking. Her skin felt too warm at times. Her stomach turned from food she once needed. She sat on a rock one day, holding her head, whispering, "What is happening to me?" She checked her supplies. Her rations were fine. Water was clean. Air was stable. But her body wasn't. The final sign came when she stood by a pool of glowing water. Echo had shown her. As she bent to refill her bottle, her hand slipped, and she fell to her knees, and suddenly, she felt it. A second heartbeat. Inside her. She froze. The world around her went silent. She placed her hands on her stomach, still and wide-eyed. The thump was soft, faint, but it was there, separate, alive. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." Panic rushed into her veins. Her heart pounded. Her breath grew short. She stumbled away from the water, falling in. The sand, Her mind screamed with questions she couldn't answer. She hadn't been with anyone. She hadn't even touched Echo, except when he healed her. That healing, the strange light. The warmth in her bones. No, it couldn't be. That was impossible, unthinkable. And yet, the second heartbeat did not lie. She crawled back to camp and pulled out the small scanner device from her emergency kit. It was old tech, limited use, but enough to read vitals. She pressed it against her skin, closed her eyes, waited. Then the screen lit up with a sound she had only heard once in her life, during med training. 2 heartbeats. One human, one unknown. Her mouth went dry. Her fingers shook. No. She dropped the scanner. Stumbled backward. Knocked over a crate. Her whole world tilted sideways. Was it his? Could it even be? Was that what he had done to her when he healed her? Mixed his DNA with hers? Could their cells even combine? She didn't want to believe it, but she also couldn't deny what her body told her. Something had begun inside her, something that was not entirely human. She sat still for hours. Not moving, not speaking, only thinking. Her first thought was fear. Fear of the unknown, of what would grow inside her, of what it meant. Her second thought was anger. How dare he do this to her, without warning, without permission? But then came the third thought. She remembered the healing. How gentle he had been, how calm. He had never tried to harm her. He had saved her life more than once. He had watched her from a distance, left food for her, shared knowledge with her. He had never crossed a line. What if this wasn't an attack? What if it wasn't even a mistake? What if it was natural? Her kind used metal, machines, science. But his kind, maybe their connection worked differently. On a level she didn't understand. Maybe, in healing her, he had given a part of himself, not on purpose, not cruelly, but simply. Because that was how his species worked. Alara pressed a hand to her stomach again. This time, her hand didn't shake. It rested there. Firm, protective. The heartbeat was still there. Steady. Alive. She whispered into the night. What are you? And then, a whisper answered, not in words, but in feeling. A presence. Echo was near. Watching. Listening. She turned toward the shadows. He stood at the edge of camp, still, silent, glowing softly under the moonlight. Alara didn't run this time. She didn't reach for her weapon. She just stared at him. And for the first time, she wondered not what he was, but what they had become. Alara didn't speak to him for 2 days. She stayed inside the small shelter she had built from the wreckage. Her back pressed to the wall, her hand always resting on her stomach. Her mind full of storms. The knowledge that something was growing. Inside her, something not entirely human was too big to carry easily. She could feel it now, not just as a second heartbeat, but in small ways. Her senses felt sharper, her body felt warmer. Time felt slower. And yet, it wasn't just the change in her body that made her afraid. It was him. Echo. The one who had healed her. The one who had spoken just once. The one who watched and helped and disappeared like a ghost. Had he known this would happen? Was it his intention? Or did his touch carry more than healing, more than even he understood? Alara didn't know, and that uncertainty grew like a wall between them. He stayed away, watching from a distance, but not coming close. Maybe he felt her fear, maybe he respected it, or maybe he was afraid too. The sky turned red that evening. A storm was coming. You could smell it in the wind, dry, bitter, sharp like metal. Alara knew she had to check her traps before it hit. Food was running low. She forced herself out of the shelter, into the wind. Her body ached more than before. The heartbeat inside her was stronger now, more real. She felt protective of it, but confused too. Like carrying something sacred and unknown. She reached the edge of the rocks, where she had left her snares. That's when she saw him. Echo. Not hiding this time. Just standing there, quiet, Still, waiting, she froze. The wind caught her hair and pulled it across her face, but she didn't move. He raised a hand slowly. Not a threat. A greeting. I didn't raise her hand back. You knew, she said aloud, her voice carried by the wind. Didn't you? Echo didn't reply. But something changed in his body. His glow dimmed, softened like the color of guilt. Her voice cracked as she stepped closer. You did this to me. You touched me. You changed me. Without asking. Still he said nothing. But then, slowly, he bent down and placed something on the ground, a small smooth object, shaped like a stone. It pulsed faintly. Alara hesitated, then stepped forward and picked it up. The moment her fingers touched it, a rush of images flashed behind her eyes, not words, not sounds. Memories. Not hers. His. She saw a bright world full of color and strange beauty. Tall silver trees, blue rivers that moved like music. She saw his people, tall, glowing beings who lived, not with machines but with energy and connection. She saw them fall. A disease, a crash, a war. She saw Echo alone on this planet for years, maybe decades. No voices, no others. Just silence. Until her. Then she saw the healing again from his eyes. He had only meant to help. His kind shared life when they healed. It was their nature, not control. Not violence. Connection. When the images faded, Alara staggered back, gasping. Her heart raced. Her fear shifted. Not gone, but different. I saw you, she whispered. You're alone too. Echo tilted. His head slightly. His hands glowed faintly again, but he kept them to himself. I don't know what this thing is inside me, she continued. I don't know if I'm supposed to keep it, or if I even can. But I know one thing. She stepped closer. If you meant harm, I'd be dead already. They stood a few feet apart, two beings from different stars, connected now by something neither could explain fully. She didn't forgive him, not yet, but she didn't fear him now either. The storm arrived. That night. Harsh winds, blinding dust. The sky turned orange and angry. Illyra's shelter shook under the force of it. Panels snapped. Poles cracked. And just before the shelter gave in, he came. Echo appeared at the entrance, shielding his body against the wind. He reached for her, not to pull, not to push, but to offer. She looked at his hand. Then, at the storm. And then, without a word, she placed her hand in his. He let her out. Through the storm. Into the canyon. To a place she had never seen before. A cave. Hidden. Safe. Lit. With a soft blue light from the stones that grew out of the walls like living lanterns. She collapsed to the ground. Breathless, the baby inside her kicking softly. Echo knelt beside her. She looked at him. And for the first time, said something she never thought she'd say to an alien life form. Thank you. He didn't smile, but somehow, the light in the cave grew warmer. As if it understood. The cave was quiet, wrapped in soft blue light. The storm outside had passed, but Alara remained inside, resting on a bed of dried vines and padded stones. Echo had prepared for her. She didn't ask how he knew what she needed. She didn't question the way he moved gently now, his tall body bending in ways that seemed unnatural but always protective. She no longer flinched at his closeness. She no longer feared the second heartbeat inside her. Something had shifted. Between them, she had stopped thinking in terms of me and him. Now, it was just us. But peace never lasts long on strange planets. It began with a sound. One Alara hadn't heard in weeks. A mechanical buzz. Artificial. Unnatural. She sat upright. Echo was already at the cave's entrance, motionless. A red light scanned over the sky, thin and sharp like a needle through clouds. Alara crawled beside him and stared. In the sky, just above the horizon, floated a ship. Angular, cold, black metal, reflecting the moons. Not a rescue team. Not a science vessel. Mercenaries. She recognized the model instantly. Small, fast, designed for collection, not recovery. These were scavengers. They must have picked up her original distress signal. Late, too late. But they had come anyway, hoping to find something worth selling, and they had. Ilara backed away from the entrance. "They'll come for me," she whispered. "They'll scan the wreck. They'll find the camp. They'll find the child." Echo didn't move. He didn't speak. But the glow along his arms deepened, no longer soft blue, but sharp white, a sign of warning, a sign of anger. He had seen this before. He knew their kind. She stood slowly, her legs trembling. "We can't hide." Echo turned toward her. His face was unreadable, but the answer was clear in the air between them. "We'll fight." The next hours were a blur. Ilara gathered what she could: tools, scanners, the broken comm device. Echo led her through underground paths, deep tunnels hidden beneath the sand. They emerged far from the camp, just in time to see the scavengers landing near the wreckage. 3 humans stepped out, 2 men, 1 woman. All armed, all armored. They wore no insignia, no mission tags, freelancers, illegal. One of them walked up to the camp and scanned the ground. The device beeped. He looked up, smiled. "I've got her genetic trail," he said into his comm. "And something else, something different." The woman stepped forward, checking the scanner. Her eyes widened. "Ilara Vos," she said. "Missing for over a month. Presumed dead. But she's alive. And she's carrying something alien." They didn't sound surprised. They sounded interested. From their position in the rocks, Ilara gritted her teeth. "They're not here to help," she whispered. "They're here to take me." Echo's glow shifted again. His hands pulsed with light. They moved quickly now, making a plan without words. Ilara set small traps. Echo drew glowing lines on the sandmark she didn't understand, but trusted. They took positions in the shadows. As the mercenaries followed her trail into the rocks, the first trap snapped, a flash of heat and noise. 1 merc fell, crying out. Not dead, but hurt. The second ran forward and met Echo in the narrow path. The alien didn't use weapons. He didn't need to. His body shimmered, then burst forward with speed Ilara couldn't follow. 1 strike. 1 flash of light. The merc fell unconscious, but the last one clever. Quiet slipped behind Ilara. She heard the click of the gun before she saw him. "Drop it," the man said. Ilara turned slowly, her hands in the air. The scanner he held glowed bright red. "You're pregnant," he said, eyes locked on her stomach. "Human DNA, mixed with alien, one of a kind." He stepped closer. "You have no idea how much they'll pay for that." He raised the gun, but then the light changed, the shadows shifted. Behind him, a blue glow began to rise like a sun behind a mountain. Echo appeared, slow and silent, eyes burning like stars. The man turned. Too late. Echo raised his hand and released a pulse of energy. Not violent, not deadly, but pure force. The man was thrown back, his weapon clattering on the rocks. He hit the wall and collapsed. Silence followed. Ilara breathed hard. Her hand over her stomach. Echo moved to her side and helped her sit down. Her heart was racing. "I thought they'd save me," she said softly, "that someone would come." She looked at Echo. "But they don't care about me. Or you, or this child." He didn't answer with words. He only reached out and touched her arm. A soft glow spread from his fingers. Comfort. Not healing this time, a kind of promise. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were protecting something precious, something the world didn't understand, something the stars weren't ready for. But it was here. It was growing, and it would live, because they would fight for it, together. The planet was quiet again. The ship was gone, lifted into the sky by panicked mercenaries who had seen something they couldn't explain and didn't want to understand. They left behind broken gear, blood in the sand, and a story they would never tell, because who would believe it? A human woman. An alien being. A child never meant to exist. Ilara stood in the silence of the canyon, one hand over her belly, the other wrapped in echoes. Her face was tired, but her eyes were full of something new, calm, strength, a quiet fire. She had made her choice. She was not going back, even if someone returned to search. Even if another rescue ship finally received her original message. Even if Earth opened its arms again, she wouldn't go. Not without him, and not without their child. The cave had become a home. A strange one, yes, but it was safe, warm, alive. With the faint hum of glowing crystals and the soft sound of wind whispering through the stone. Echo moved gently now, always near her, always watching. His glow had changed deeper, warmer, as if his very body had tuned itself to her presence. They no longer needed words. She had learned to feel his emotions in the air between them. Sadness had weight, joy had color, and love, though she had never spoken the word aloud, moved like music when they touched. Time passed. The stars above turned slowly in the sky. And then, one night, under the light of the twin moons, it began. She woke with a pain sharp and sudden. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled. The heartbeat inside her had grown louder in the past days, but now it felt ready, urgent. Echo was there in a second. He placed both hands on her shoulders, and his glow dimmed to a soft pulse, matching hers. He wasn't afraid. He was steady. Solid. Ilara gasped, leaning against the wall. I think it's time, she whispered. He nodded once. No panic, no rushing. He led her to the center of the cave, where soft moss-like plants grew near the warm stones. He surrounded her with light, some kind of protective field she didn't understand but trusted. And then he knelt beside her. The pain came in waves, stronger each time. Her breath turned into short cries. Her body shook. But she felt him there, his presence wrapping around her like a blanket, keeping her grounded. She didn't know how long it lasted. Minutes, hours, time vanished. And then, in the quiet that followed one final, aching breath, there was a sound. A soft, high, musical cry. The child had arrived. Ilara held the newborn in her arms, her body weak but alive with emotion. The baby was small, delicate, but glowing faintly with a golden light, like starlight under water. It had her face. But Echo's eyes, large, deep, silent and endless. The baby looked at her, and didn't cry again. It just watched. Calm. Knowing. Echo knelt beside her, his hand trembling for the first time. She placed the child in his arms, and something unspoken passed between them. An understanding that this was more than survival. This was creation, something never done before. Something the universe hadn't planned for but would now have to accept. They stayed there for hours, the three of them wrapped in quiet, in warmth, in something bigger than language. Days passed. Child grew faster than human. It learned by watching, by touching. It could sense emotion. It laughed without sound and cried with color. It was unlike anything Ilara had known. And yet, it felt natural, like it had always belonged. She named the child Nova, born from stars. Born from light, not just human. Not just alien, but both. And more. The seasons on the planet shifted slowly. New colors began to appear in the desert. Plants bloomed where the child played. Stones hummed softly beneath her tiny feet. The air felt different. It was as if the planet itself was waking up. Echo would sometimes sit alone under the moon, silent. She knew what he was thinking, about his people, his lost world. The silence he had lived in before her. She would sit beside him, their child asleep in her arms, and say, "We are not the last anymore." And he would nod. Because she was right. This place, once a prison, was now a beginning. No longer just a stranded world. It was home. And above them, far in the stars, Earth turned without her, But Alara didn't look back. She had found something out here that no one had ever known. Not just life, not just survival, but connection. A bridge between two kinds. A new species. A new hope dotting under the stars. With Echo at her side and Nova in her arms, she whispered to the wind, "We were never meant to find each other, but we did." And that changed everything.